So first of all, I want to welcome all of you and thank you for your generous commitment and support, your time, energy, and efforts in making Grace Ann Arbor the community that it is. You know, everything that you love about this community of people here, it's because of what you have all contributed to this place and the people here. Now, I want to just share a few things to give us context, and then we're going to have Stephen and Ryan come up and share a few things. But just in context, so we understand, when we talk about some of the highlights of 2013, we live in a city, the great city of Ann Arbor. I love Ann Arbor, but it is also one of the most irreligious cities in America. So, you know, you may experience hostility towards Christianity. It's actually, so when you combine all people from all religions, right? Ann Arbor is less religious than places like Seattle, Boston, New York City, and San Francisco. People who affiliate themselves with any kind of religion is very low here. And so you can imagine there's a lot of hostility towards churches, Christianity, or just ambivalence. We also live in a very transient town. It is a very intellectual, academic town, and it's a very progressive town. And so the past 4.5 years that we've been here as Grace Ann Arbor, God has brought a lot of young professionals to Grace Ann Arbor, and that's a season of life when actually people are most likely to stop coming to church. Post-college to like 35 is the age group that you're most likely to stop coming to church, and for some reason, God has continued to bring that age group here to Grace Ann Arbor. Now, we certainly have people older than 35, and the thing that I hear over and over again is from people who are over 35 is they say, you know, we come here, we love it here, but, you know, this is also evidence of God's hand moving because we just see so many young people who are coming to Christ, who are rededicating their lives, who are coming to church and really hungering and growing in the Word. And so just so, as we talk about some of the highlights, just so you know, the context and the environment that we're serving and working in. So what we're going to do is for the next 15 minutes or so, Stephen and Ryan are going to share some highlights, and they're all based around our 3 core values: worship, community, and mission. Okay, that should be like a hand motion song, right? Worship, community, mission. So I'm going to have Stephen come up here, and he's going to talk a little bit about worship and dive a little bit into community.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen, as I say all the time, and I'm associate pastor here. I do more than just sing songs every week, which it probably seems like that's all I do because that's all you see me doing. But I'm also behind the scenes with a lot of administrative things and helping also with community groups and other leadership aspects within the church. So I wanted to just briefly go over some of the highlights of our weekend services and a little bit of community, what happens in our community groups as well, just to give you an update from last year. So in 2012, we were averaging, by the end of the year, about 400 people in attendance. By the end of 2013, we are kind of where we are currently. We're averaging about 100 more people. So that's 25% increase just over the last year. So we're right at about 500 or just slightly over 500 between our 2 services. And I was going to share just kind of where we come from 2009, but I'm going to keep it brief just to keep us moving along. But I do have a graph of kind of our attendance from day one to where we are now. And if you look at it, you can see it's a pretty dramatic increase to where we are over the 4.5, almost 5 years, but 4.5 years that we've since when we started. We started with 100 people in our first service and then been growing ever since. The reason I want to share that with you guys is because a 25% increase, if you've been here the whole time or you haven't been in church that much, it's like, well, what does that mean? What does that even matter? Well, there's an old adage that's going around, and it still holds true, that in the church, 80% of the churches are plateaued or declining. So if you were to look across the U.S., 80% of evangelical churches and Catholic churches, all of them together, 80% of them are plateaued. That means they're not growing or they're actually decreasing. And one study showed that actually 7% of churches in the United States are actually growing with non-Christians. So that means even the ones that are growing, they're just attracting other Christians from other churches. That's what makes Grace Ann Arbor very unique. We actually have a lot of unchristian people, non-Christian people coming to our church. And if that's not enough, the average the average age of an attender of a U.S. church is 53 years old. Ours is somewhere around 30. So to put in perspective what our church is like and what we are very, very unique in our community, how we operate, and the things that we do. So that hopefully that will put into context all of the numbers that we throw out, and you get a better understanding of what we're doing. Now, I just wanted to touch very briefly, giving from 2012 to 2013, again, we went from 400,000 up to 500,000, so that was a 25% increase, which has kept up with our attendance, which is good. Sung will talk more in detail about that later on. Volunteers in our children's area, our First Impressions, tech, and band, we've actually had a 63% increase over this last year of people who have gotten plugged into ministry here. So that was kind of like our biggest increase in volunteers that we've seen to date in the church. And that's, I give you guys a round of applause definitely for that, especially in our kids area, our children's ministry, because we needed that so desperately. And you guys have really stepped up, and that's a testament to what's happening, what's going on here. Another highlight was that if you notice our children's ministry, if you go way back, we used to rent from Little Angels Daycare next door. If you remember what that was like, the place was a dump. We worked, our volunteers and Sarah worked very hard every week to just get that place even functional for Sunday morning, just cleaning it up. I mean, it smelled terrible, and it was a rundown facility. Well, this last year, Sarah, when she had a break in her classes, she took about 3 months to plan and implement and put together a whole renovation of the kids area. And if you go in there now, you can see, if you were there 2 years ago, you'd be like, what is this place? It's not even the same place. And so we did that. Sarah was in charge of that. And then also, we started and renovated a whole junior high ministry area over there. So in 2013, we just had a very busy year, especially in our children's ministry area. And that ministry is growing even more, and it's keeping up pace with our church, but we want to see that grow even more. And so Sung will talk to you about some staffing stuff that's going to happen with our children's area. Another thing, in 2013, we had 2 staff additions. Jenna Nienhuis is our director of pastoral care. If you were there, you saw her installation. She is volunteering, but she is ordained in the RCA, and she is more than capable of handling the counseling needs that we have within the church, and she works for the University of Michigan as well. So she's doing a great job with that, and she's building her team right now. Another person that we hired was Karen Elmendorf. I don't know if you have a picture of her or not, but there's a reason why you have pizza right now, and that's because Karen is holding down the fort on that. She was another staff addition as administrative assistant, and she's been doing a great job in alleviating that burden for us as well. So that's some staff additions that we had. And then when we look at worship altogether and we see all of these kind of trends that are happening, our growth and our giving are keeping up with the pace of our growth, but we're not on pace with where we started initially at the church. So we can definitely see some improvements in terms of where we need to go, in terms of where we're headed, what our trajectory is, and like I said, they'll talk more about that later, Sung will. Now I want to skip over to community or our community groups. This is, whenever I think about our community groups and I think about what happens in them, it's so hard because there's so much that goes on. But really a story that came up recently really kind of spoke to me. One of our elders went away to California, and he was visiting, and he had left probably 2.5 years ago, and his name's Nate Bear. And when he came back, one of the things that was a hallmark of our church from the get-go was we had extremely high participation in our community groups. It was always a central part to who we were and who we are as a church. And so we hovered around 60 or 65% when we were first getting going, and we thought that was great. Well, when he came back and saw our church, saw the renovation, saw everything. I mean, he was just blown away looking at the space and just seeing everything. But what was really telling was that we now have 70% of our people in community groups. So not only have we grown numerically in our weekend service, but we've grown in our community group attendance. So we've even grown from day one. So we didn't actually lose our sense of community as we've grown larger. We've actually grown in it, which is unheard of in the church. Usually you grow on the weekend service and then you try and clamor to keep things going in your community and keep your Bible studies going or whatever else. But we've actually grown in our percentage of attendance of our community groups as our church has grown higher pace than what we started out with, which is incredible. And just to give you a reference of what that is in regards to the nation, 20 to 30% is the national average for people involved in Sunday school or community groups or small groups in a church, and we're at 70%. So that's a pretty strong testament to what's happening. So we're younger than most churches. We're growing way faster than most churches. We're doing it with a few people, with unchristians, with people who aren't in the church, with Christians as well, but unchristians. And we have an extremely high rate of participation in all of our community groups. So in a sense, we are like many of you U of M students, we're overachievers. Thought I'd drop that one in there, but so before I kind of wrap up my part and let Ryan take over, I just want to share two stories that kind of stood out that we had talked about as a staff, and I really have just way more that I could tell, but these two really stood out. Dave and Jess Kempf, when they came to our church, I guess 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, I remember when they came in because they were young and they were eager and they were ready to just get going, and they kind of really didn't know what our church was about or what we were doing, but they just showed up at everything, and they were just gung-ho to be a part of the church. And slowly but surely, they kind of adjusted to the life of being working, because they just come out of college, and they adjusted to the life of the church. And it was a little rough for them at first because it was just not like what they'd experienced in undergrad. But as they became a part of the church and as they started to experience community groups, they just kept growing closer and closer and closer to everyone and the people around them, and they saw how ministry was done in this city, and it really changed them. Well, just a little while ago, they were in Canada because his work actually took him there for a six-month stint. And when they went there, one of the things that stood out to them, and I remember Dave was telling me and was talking, is just how rare and how unique our church really is. They had a place that they were going, that they were worshiping, and they had some people that they were meeting, but it's one of those things where you just can't put your finger on it, but Grace is just different. It's unique. The kind of community and relationships that we have here, you just don't find at your corner drugstore. It's just a unique community, and they felt that every week. They felt that every week that they were there, and so they kept up, their relationships with everyone here, and kept calling, and they were able to come back early. And I think the expression when he came back, when we saw him the first time, it said everything on his face about what our church is about. And I think they had 2 or 3 different community groups throw parties for him, and because their relationships were so deep here. I mean, everyone was throwing a party for him when they came back. It was such an exciting event, and it's something that I'll never forget. It's just an indelible thing stuck in my mind, and I think that's just a symbol of what we are as a church and how we love people like Christ loves people. And on the heels of that, we just found out that former community group leaders, Mark and Jamie Warner, are actually moving back from, he took a job to move up in his career in Tennessee, and he wanted to make that career move, and it certainly made sense on paper. But when they left 2.5 years ago, it's been tough on them ever since, because they've not been able to find the kind of community that exists here at Grace Ann Arbor. And so now he had some flexibility where they said that he could work from home, and the first thing they did is start looking for houses in Ann Arbor. And they're moving back because they want to be a part of the church again. And so yeah. If you know Jamie and Mark, you love them. They're great people. But that's just a testament. I mean, they want to get back so bad. As soon as he got some flexibility, he's like, I'm heading out. I'm going back to Ann Arbor, and we're going to have them plugged in right away. If you know anything about Grace, as soon as you come, you get plugged in right away. You hit the ground running. That's the way it works here. But they're definitely going to be a great asset to have back. So those are just two small stories, but there's tons more. I could talk about people from our community group, Curtis and Abby. I mean, I had stories about a good friend of mine, Charlie Clark, and his wife, and I could just keep going on, but I need to stop because it just becomes a rant after a while. But what if I say anything, it's that, yes, our church is different, and yes, we're unique, and yes, we're hitting people in a target that most churches aren't doing, but really the testament of the character of our church is the quality of relationships that are happening within our community groups. It's the depth of relationships and how people are becoming more like Christ because they're experiencing it, from the weekend all the way through to our community groups. And I think that's just a win all the way around. So anyway, I'm going to give it over to Ryan now.
We are overachievers, and we are busy, aren't we? Man, we are so busy. It's unbelievable. Oh, crazy busy. Sorry. Crazy busy. I love giving these guys a hard time. I get the opportunity today just to come up here and just acknowledge that, really that 20% that Sung was talking about today. It's true. About 20% of the people do 80% of the ministry here currently at Grace. And honestly, a big part of that 20% is our community group leaders. And I just want to acknowledge their hard work and their effort that they put in this past year. And since I've been here a year and a half now, and just it's amazing how much work they put in. When I came here, I had some very high expectations of things I wanted to start implementing through our values that we talked about as pastors, like things we wanted to see start happening in these groups. And to be honest with you, I always kind of shoot high and then hope we can fall somewhere close. And the community group leaders just stepped up. All of them, just one after another, just started saying, no, this is what we want to be about. And we want to participate in becoming more and more like Christ. And we want to start taking on these values that Grace is about. And so, meeting with them pretty often and just working with them in their own personal lives, how do those values work in their lives? And then also, how does that spread throughout their whole group? And so we've seen just tons and tons of growth, both numerically, like Stephen said, and that just testifies to what's really going on here. It is a different type of community. And what's happening here is the leaders are changing as people. And as the leaders are changing as people, and as they're growing in Christ, what I'm seeing happen is people in their group are starting to follow them. Because we can only lead people to where we've already been. And the leaders here, they want to be, they have a desire for Jesus and to become like Christ. And that's been the best and most, pleasing thing to us on the pastoral staff is we don't have to push you to want to follow Christ. Like, you guys are all in. The leaders are all in. In fact, most of them are here today, which is just another testament of just your dedication to this church body. So just thank you. Now, as this happens and as the church continues to grow and our communities continue to thrive, that produces actually challenges and a lot more challenges. And Russell has talked to pastoral staff about this a lot. Like, good things actually bring even more challenges. And so we're facing some challenges right now. And some of that is we can no longer rely just on the pastors to meet with all of the group leaders. And so something that we started piloting this fall was giving some of our groups what's called coaches. And so we have two sets of coaches right now, Bill and Marty Barber, who are over there, and Debbie and Corky Erickson. Yeah, see? Give them a round of applause. And what our coaches are, they're people of wisdom. At least we hope, right, Bill? But, just kidding. They're people of wisdom. They really are. They're people who are seasoned, who have led people for a time, and who have gained our respect as a pastoral staff and as a board. And so what we want to do is pass off some of the responsibilities of holding relationships with a lot of our leaders. And not just the accountability piece, which is very important, because as leaders we need accountability, because we can easily isolate ourselves. But also in addition to that, is we need to make sure that our leaders are cared for as people. Because leadership is lonely. And anyone who's in leadership knows this. It's lonely and it can be isolating. And so what we need is someone who's mature, who's been down this road before in leadership in some form, to step back and to meet with them, to spend time with them, and to build relationships with them, and to just ask, how are you doing? How is your relationship with Jesus going? Because how the relationship with Jesus is going is probably how far the people who they're leading are going as well. And so it's a good litmus test for that. And so we want to make sure that we care well for our leaders. And we believe that will trickle down to all of us who aren't community group leaders, and it will again, impact our lives as well. And so that's the community group piece. I'm excited for this upcoming year. I think things are just going to continue. I see a real emphasis on depth, especially in the last few months, and I think that's going to continue as well in our groups. So that's exciting. Now I've been given the opportunity to talk about our mission stuff. And if you were with on our second service today, we spent a lot of time talking about the Congo. And John and Kate, they're our friends that we sent there this last fall, and the work that they're doing there. They're doing so many things. And again, we talked about the second service. And Susha and Morgan will be some of our community leaders. They're going to be headed there tomorrow morning. And what they're going to be doing is looking for partnerships that we can increase there in order to fight for hunger relief, which we'll talk about later on, and other sustainable solutions in the Congo where we can help the people and build partnerships there with them. And so they're going to be headed out in order to help the Shaws here, and also to help us find different places where we might be able to take short-term mission trips. And we believe that not only will the Shaws and the people of the Congo be changed by this, but we will be as well. And so we're looking forward to extending that partnership in the upcoming year. Second, we have, Saxom is the second one, okay. Saxom, which was, if you've been through the past year, you've seen we've partnered with them and reselling their goods after Sunday services. And all the proceeds from those sales, from these handbags and purses and wallets and all these just beautiful items, they go back to helping women get out of the sex slave industry. All right? It helps them get out of it, and it provides them with jobs, and so it gives them back a lot of the dignity that they feel that they've lost. It gives them back their dignity, it gives them a job, and they're taken out of just horrible circumstances. And so we've been really excited to partner with them, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars we've been able to send back to them over, I think, the 4 different seasons that we've sold their stuff here. And so that will continue throughout this year as well. Now, we also partnered with a guy named Andrew Boyd, who started a company right out of U of M, actually their entrepreneurship center. He started out of there, and what he did is he started a business in Honduras. He went to Honduras and he started working personally with the local farmers there. And he started saying, well, you know what, fair trade, anyone can get the fair trade label now. But to track your coffee from the exact farmer who's growing it, the way it's being distributed, who's being used to process it, and who it's coming to in the end. Sometimes it's called bean to cup for those coffee freaks out there like me. It's called bean to cup. This is a big deal. And it's such a big deal to Andrew, and he takes it so personally that he wants to make sure that every bag of coffee has the name of the exact farmer that it's coming from. And Andrew shared with us last fall, and I thought the way he put it was just awesome. He said, sometimes the biggest changes we can make for Jesus Christ is in the small things that we do, the daily decisions. And some of those are just so overlooked by us on a regular basis, even like who we buy our coffee from and how we go about buying our coffee. And so we look forward to continuing partnering with Andrew. He's going to come in again this spring, and he's going to do pour-overs for us and talk a little bit more about the work that they're doing. He also told me over Christmas that their business expanded 33% in the last year, so that's really exciting as well. And I saw his van. It was packed full of coffee that he was delivering for Christmas, so it was really cool to talk to him. So that's really exciting. We have a lot of global partnerships going on, and we're going to continue this upcoming year to extend those. We also have a ton of local stuff as well happening right now. First, we have Angel Tree, which just got done, and we were able, I think we had tons of tags. I extended the tags this year of how many we wanted, and I think after 2 services, they were all gone. So next year, we have to double the amount of tags that we're getting because it was such a huge response. And what Angel Tree is through Salvation Army, and they give out gifts and presents. They collect presents for kids that won't be able to have any during Christmas time. And you guys responded so huge to this. How many, was it 100 and some odd? 136 families. That's not people, that's families that were able to be served. And what they do is they have this store set up, so all those gifts that you bought, somewhere they're in there. If you can pick them out, good luck. But they have all these different gifts items, and what the parents do is they come in, and for a very, very low fee, basically they can buy the gifts for their kids. And so it's just a really exciting thing that Ann Arbor does, and we were really happy to partner with them. Next, we've got Food Gatherers. Food Gatherers is one of my personal favorite organizations. Food Gatherers is a local organization that partners with Washtenaw County in order to relieve hunger, for issues of hunger relief in Washtenaw County. And so every month we go and we package food up, and we actually hand it out to the people in the apartment complex too on the north side. Now this year we're going to extend that to at least one more day that we're going to do as well. And so I'm working with a community group right now on doing that, actually 2, And they're going to do that. And then also what we have is I've been working with food gatherers on, there's a gardening project that they have. And so they have this huge garden set up, and now they have that whole new building and stuff. And it's just this huge plot of land that they want us to come and to help at various times throughout the year. And so that's a really exciting opportunity for us as well. And so we'll be doing that and just extending that partnership more and more and more. And we have a food drive as well that we do for them, which has always been successful. Then we have Helping Hands, which is led by Sarah Reeves and her group. It's a great event. And Sarah came up to me almost in tears after the last event just because of the amount of volunteers that signed up. She had to turn away quite a few people just because of the size of this building. We couldn't handle the amount of kids that wanted to come and the amount of volunteers that wanted to help. This is a great problem to have, and it's making Sarah and I, we're going to be meeting here the next couple weeks talking about, okay, well, we need to extend this ministry. There's obviously a huge need here. You know, these families, they want these date nights, and it's some of the only times of respite that they get. Right, Sarah? Yes, it is. And so, you know, you're providing that need so much for the city of Ann Arbor here, and just for us to meet that need. And God is definitely calling us to expand the ministry. We don't exactly know what that looks like yet, but in the next few weeks, I think we're going to start figuring that out, and I think there's going to be more and more days to do this and to volunteer for that. So I look forward to working with some of you on those nights. The next one? Nope, that's it. Okay, well, I've got two more here. And I've got the mic, so no. Meal Baby is something we give meals out to all the people that are having babies, and actually it even extends outside of this congregation a little bit at this point. They actually contacted us, the website did, they contacted us saying, hey, you guys are one of our top users for this. We'd really like to interview you and get kind of your thoughts and things on it. I just thought it was really exciting to hear that we are caring well for one another, and we want to continue doing that. One thing I'd like to see with Meal Baby in this upcoming year is to see us extend that even outside of these four walls, to friends and people that we know that are having babies and, you know, obviously all over the city, and, you know, extending that outside of our four walls and really caring for people and loving people in that way, and I think there's a huge opportunity for that. And then the next one is there's just other ministries that are coming up in this upcoming year that we want to support. Habitat for Humanity is going to be happening, and that's just another good organization that we can partner with. Alpha House, once again, is going to be happening in this upcoming year. So there's a lot of opportunities to volunteer and to get involved. And so you'll be hearing more and more about those in the upcoming weeks and months. But I just want to say thank you to everybody here. Honestly, like, I've been at another church before, and it was so hard to find people who love Jesus, who wanted to step up and volunteer and to serve. And it's not difficult here. So I'm very thankful for everything that you guys do.
So one thing I'm going to have Ryan actually talk about before we go on is in the past we've talked about the reason why we brought Ryan on was really not to stay permanently in his mission and discipleship role, but part of his background has been being a social entrepreneur. And one of the things that we are looking to do as a congregation that he's going to talk more about, just the name of it is Cultivate, but he's going to spend a few minutes just sharing about what that is, what the timeline is, and why we're doing it. Some of you know this all in detail. Others of you, it might be the first time, but it's really exciting for us as a church to really be expanding our reach and to be the hands and feet of Jesus in this city. So I'm going to give it back to Ryan and have him talk about Cultivate.
More. Yes. I am excited to announce that the pastors we are just thrilled to announce that the board has approved the funding, the majority of the funding, I should say, for the nonprofit coffee and tap house, Cultivate. And Cultivate is a very agrarian theme, right? It comes from Genesis, and it's about caring for what God has given you. Cultivate the land in which God has given you. We believe it's not just the land, which, again, all the proceeds from Cultivate are going to go back to providing sustainable solutions for hunger relief locally through partners like Food Gatherers and globally through partners in the Congo with John and Kate Shaw. And part of what Sush and Morgan are going to do is they're going to go there and they're going to look for making some relationships and beginning to get that ball rolling in the Congo there as well. And so all these ministries, they start to kind of just gel into one another, which is exactly what the pastors want. And so from the beginning of Grace Ann Arbor, we believe that Jesus called us to engage this city in very, very tangible ways. And in order to do that, we need to create community within the city, places for people to belong, and to see and experience the gospel through the hands and the feet of us, right, followers of Christ. We want people to feel loved and to know that they're loved. And we're going to find, from the very beginning, Grace has said, we're going to be creative about different ways and thoughts that we're going to go about doing this. And so this is one of those ways. And there will be more in the future. Now, why a coffee and tap house? Why cultivate? Well, 2/3, and I know there's tons of statistics being thrown out here, 2/3, which is a very conservative estimate, of non-Christians who are currently not involved in a congregation said that they will never step foot into a church building. If they were invited by a friend, it doesn't matter. I will never step foot into a church building, right? And there's a history behind that, and there's barriers behind that. But 1/3 still will. And so we need to continue doing what we're doing and expanding what we're doing here. But if 2/3 aren't willing to, and in Europe right now that number has shrunk below 10%, that will ever step foot into a building. If that's true, then we need to go out, don't we? We need to get out there. And we need to start creating places where we can meet people and develop relationships with them, to be the hands and feet of Christ to them on a regular basis, through every single transaction, through every time we talk to them. We can be the hands and feet of Jesus. And then, after that, after we do something for them, we can testify to why we're doing what we're doing. We can testify to the God that we serve here at Grace Ann Arbor. And I know some of you are thinking, well, coffee tap house, there's a lot of challenges with that. It's kind of messy, isn't it? And I would say, you look at the ministry of Christ, you look at the disciples, the gospel is messy. When it engages people, it is messy. But I also know this congregation, I know our hearts, and I know that we're up for the challenges that are in store. And not only is this city going to be changed by this coffee and tap house, but in the end, I think we're going to find that we were the ones that were changed the most. It's not even close, because even through this process of getting it started and launching it, the pastors will tell you that they've been changed already. And it's not even, we don't even have a building yet, and we've already been changed drastically. And many of you in this building that are participating in it already have been as well. Now, logistics. Right now we have a bunch of different members here that are working on various things with me and Sung, and we're filing all of the legal paperwork right now. We're in the process of that. It's almost finished being filed, so now we got to wait just for the state and for the government to actually do something with that paperwork. So we'll see how long that takes. But we're also searching for a building right now, and so we've pulled all of the different listings, and we're starting to look through those and find the right place. And we're praying over that process as well. I'm working with a designer from Grace as well, and so we're designing the initial artwork so we can start putting our brand out there. And then we're also working on global and local partnerships, like I said before, on creating those and making those very, very strong so that when the time comes to launch it, that those will already be in place, and that they're places that people in the city of Ann Arbor can trust, not just us as a church, but the whole city. So that'll be really great. Now, the timeline is we're going to secure a building, we hope, by this summer. And the goal is June, that we'll have a building secured by. And then by September, that's when I will transition full-time out of my current role as discipleship and community group and mission pastor to just mission pastor. So I'll still be the pastor of mission here, and kind of my main role, so to speak, is the executive director of Cultivate. And so that's kind of how that's going to work. But I'm excited to stay on as a pastor because we are in this together, and we are working towards starting this together and launching it together. And it's going to be such a great connection that we have between it. I mean, it's like, it's Grace Ann Arbor in the city, right? That's kind of what it is in many ways. And so we want people from this congregation to step up, to come out, and to serve in very different ways. And so you'll hear more about that as time goes on. I'm going to be asking for your skills because we're very gifted here, and I know that. But also I know that we have limited time as well. But I'm going to be asking for your skills and your time and in various different ways. And so if you have anything off the top of your head you can think of that you think would be helpful, please contact me, Ryan at Grace Ann Arbor, and we'll get the ball rolling, and we'll meet, and we'll talk about what that might look like. And I've already had tons of people stepping up, so I'm already grateful for that. Also, there's going to be a campaign this fall where we're going to be asking for some finances. Now, the board and Grace has decided to donate a significant portion of the funds, but here's the thing. We want this to be owned by the city as well, not just our congregation. We want the city to take ownership too, so we want to do a Kickstarter to kind of finish off the rest of the funds, where the Grace Ann Arbor's congregation will be involved in, and then on top of that, we will involve the city as well. And I'm involved in one group of friends. I think I'm the only Christian in the group. There might be one other marginal Christian. There's 35 of us in that group. And they are dying to see this place start. They want it to start, and they want to fund it. They want to help fund it. And that is exciting to me because I've already shared why we're doing what we're doing. And even though they're non-Christians, they have no congregation they're a part of, they are excited about participating in it. And I believe God's going to meet them there through us. And it's just an awesome opportunity. And the pastoral staff already has had opportunity after opportunity to share the gospel, just about talking about Cultivate. People ask. They want to know why we're doing what we're doing. Why would you not want to make significant profits, and take them for yourself? And it's a big, right, social entrepreneurship. That's a big question. Like, why would you want to give this back? And not only give this back, but all of it back. And you get to share the gospel, why you're doing what you're doing. And we're going to have opportunities as a congregation to do that just continually through our interactions with people. And there's no telling what God's going to do through this place. There's no telling. I have no idea what God's going to do in the end. But when we open the doors in January of 2015, I'm excited to have all of us involved in that process and to be changed by it and to help change our city as well as God works through us. It's God who's doing the changing. He's changing the world and people through us. So thank you. And I'm excited about Cultivate. I'm excited about where it's going. I'm excited about the next year and the direction we're headed.
That was an awesome sermon. Thank you, Ryan. So whenever I talk to other pastors, and I tell them about what's happening here at Grace Ann Arbor, over and over and over again, it's always good problems. It's rare for us to have bad problems. We do have them, but more often than not, it's good problems. And we saw a graph earlier. Here's another graph that kind of shows our average attendance since we started, and then the red kind of marks our highest attendance. And with growth, with more people, comes more needs, comes more pastoral care. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the logistics and some of the challenges and opportunities that we have in 2014. This also means as we continue to grow, we need more community groups. We need more volunteers in our children's area, especially whether you're a student or not. Every person coming in and serving, giving their all is just really essential. And I think that's been emphasized through all the stories and things that have been told. We're in a very transient community, like I said, but yet we are finding, we've reached this tipping point as a congregation where now people, rather than graduating or finishing school and moving on to find a job somewhere else, people are starting to say, you know what? We love it here so much at Grace Ann Arbor. We love our city and what God is going to do here. We're going to make a commitment to stay here. In fact, Sush and Morgan, they had the choice coming soon to move to be near family. They made the conscious choice. Man, it's so exciting what God is doing here that they've committed to stay here. I talked to somebody a few weeks ago. His name's Chris. He moved and got a job like 45 minutes away from here. And he said, yes, I'm going to be moving, taking a new job. Well, like a month later, he's back here. And I'm like, Chris, what are you doing here? I thought you moved. He's like, yeah, there's not. I know I'm not going to find anything like Grace Ann Arbor. So every Sunday he makes his drive here, every whatever day his community group is. And again, we're seeing this in a very transient city. We're seeing these islands of people who are just making that commitment to stay and serve right here, and that's really exciting. So some of the transitions and challenges that we have coming up, I'll say this. As a congregation, our congregation to staff ratio is lower compared to the national average church. That means we have less staff people for the amount of congregation members we have. And I think that says a lot in many ways. One, I think, we are able to do collectively more with less. At the same time, I also think really that's a testament to how great our congregation is in terms of serving and giving, and just the nature of our community group leaders, their commitment and devotion. The fact that we should have basically another full-time staff. That's a national average. But man, because of our coaches, because of our community group leaders, because of our volunteers, man, God has just been blessing us. And I just want us to realize the challenge that we have. Also, per person giving ratio that we have, and this is just the reality of our context, is a lot lower than the national average. We have a lot of young grad students or young professionals, And so our giving is just, per person giving ratio is lower than the national average. Now, we're going to talk about the budget that's very soon, and we'll look at 2013 and look at 2014. But a few things that I want to point out just for this coming year. First, Ryan talked about in September, how he will be moving to work at Cultivate full-time. He will still continue to be part of our staff as a pastor. So one of the things that our challenges that we're coming up against is we are at the place where we need to look for another pastor of discipleship and community. So, and we'll look at some of the numbers very soon when it comes to the numbers, but just know that staff transitioning is happening, that he will still be here doing announcements on Sunday mornings, whatnot, but we at the same time, the search process is not always easy and simple. So if we would covet your prayers for that, we will try to keep you updated as much as possible. Also, this May, Sarah Canfield, who is our director of children's ministry, she will be finishing her last semester of school. She's so very excited, and then she will be coming on full-time here at Grace Ann Arbor. And she's just so excited with all the things that she wants to do, and she's chomping at the bit, and we may have to hold her back. No, Sarah, but she'll be coming on full time, and so again, another transition there. Stephen talked to you about Karen, who's been our administrative assistant, and she's been doing a great job. One of the things that's going to be happening this summer, so April 20th or so is Easter Sunday. So I was actually granted a 4-month sabbatical from Grace Ann Arbor I received a grant, a national grant that goes out to pastors for the specific purpose of sabbaticals. I was the recipient of one of them, and the board generously said, yeah, Sung, we want you to rest and to take time off, so that when you come back, you could continue to lead us into the future. And it's just a really generous gift. This time last year, probably about March 2012, I sat in front of the board, and the congregation doesn't see this, but I was trying to finish up my doctorate degree. I still have to do that, preach every Sunday and whatnot. And I just said to the board, I just said, I am just so tired. I'm on the verge of burnout. You may not have seen that on a Sunday morning, but emotionally, spiritually, I just said, Now, fortunately, Ryan was able to come in and help preach a lot during last summer and really help me. And this fall and coming into this winter, man, it's just been so much, I've been excited to preach again every week. It got to a point last spring where, it was like when I didn't have to preach, it was like, oh, man, I get a week off. But, yeah, and so with the sabbatical, we will be leaving. So our family will not be in town. So while we are away, Stephen will be he will be the kind of executive director of Grace Ann Arbor, handling the operations of Grace Ann Arbor. And honestly, you may not know this, but he does all of that even now. I don't, okay? If you come and ask me a question about anything, I just say, I don't know. I'm only the pastor. Ask somebody else, right? So this church congregation is left in good hands. Stephen will be doing that. While I'm gone, other people within the congregation, like Ryan and like Bill Barber, and a couple possibly one other person in this congregation and one other person outside this congregation will be rotating preaching here on Sunday mornings. We will be planning to leave sometime after Easter. It's like the penultimate week of April, next to last week of April after Easter, and then we will return the penultimate week of August. Our family is looking forward to it, and I think this is also a time for an opportunity for the congregation to step into areas of leadership. Over and over, I see congregations where their senior pastor may take a sabbatical, and instead of growing weaker, they actually grow stronger. There's a greater sense of unity and things because people step up. In the absence of that kind of head leadership, people are saying, hey, how can I help? And so for us, whether if you're in a community group, it might be you step up and say, hey, I'm willing to host my community group. Maybe it's in some area of service or mission, or maybe it's in the children's ministry. And so we are doing everything possible as a staff and as a board to prepare us and to challenge our congregation to really be the church even during that time while I am away on sabbatical. I'll probably be doing some work finishing up my dissertation. But the main focus of that will just be time to get away, to rest, refresh, and to really come back ready to take Grace Ann Arbor to the next level. We as a church have several opportunities in the fall and beyond. These are some possible 2014 things that we're looking at. Again, none of this is set in stone, but just to let you know. I mean, we've grown tremendously over the last few years. We will continue to grow. We are hoping and praying that God sends us possibly a pastor who would come and help us start a multi-site, another location of Grace Ann Arbor, maybe at North Campus or the West Side or somewhere. We're starting to look even beyond Ann Arbor in terms of starting a second location. So there's that. There is a possibility because we don't have that right person now. As we continue to grow, we don't have space, and there are still people who are coming who do not know Christ, are bringing their friends, and so one thing that we are still considering, praying, and discerning about is even this fall, do we need to start a third service, right? And so, our hope isn't just to become this mega church kind of thing, right? Really, our goal and mission is to make more and better followers of Jesus. And so, that's why we keep community and relationships at the core. And yet at the same time, we want to do our best to be externally focused and continue to reach out to people in Ann Arbor who need to hear the gospel. Let me take a quick, brief break. I don't know, and then we will dive into some budget things. We will have our board members up front after this meeting in case you have any questions. We want to allow for as much in-depth questions as possible. However, we also recognize that we cannot answer every question about every single detail here while we are all meeting. So one of the last things we're going to do is review the budget, vote on it, and then I want to share some next steps, some action steps that you as a congregation member can take. But before we dive into the budget, we've just been given a whole flood of information, a lot of things. Are there... I'm almost afraid to ask, but any questions, and just consider at some point, we may just have to end it and then just say, hey, come up forward after the meeting. We could talk more about it. And there's just so much that we could share. But any outstanding big question that you want to know about? Is that what I'm saying subtly? I love you, don't ask any questions? No. I just want to respect everybody's time. Afterwards, if you want to come up, we will stand here for, however long to answer any questions you have. Really, we want to be an open book. We want to be transparent, but there's just so much we want to cover. Yeah. You could talk to Ryan afterwards. The question was, can you talk more about Cultivate? All I'll say, I think the one thing that Ryan said really well was, this is Grace Ann Arbor in the city, right? Grace Ann Arbor just doesn't happen here on Sunday mornings. The church is where we are the rest of the week. And so what best kind of location and environment to just be the church in a city like Ann Arbor, to build relationships and to share the gospel. We as a church are committing a big portion of our local mission budget to help start this and support this. And like Ryan said, finances, it's, several $100,000s that we are basically donating to the city of Ann Arbor and for the good of the people here. I could go on more and more. We have almost all of that, and I think the portion we need to raise is much less than that. So, but we'll be talking more about that as this year progresses. Let me jump to the budget. It's 112. I want to try to finish by 120. No, maybe not. We'll see. This is a review of 2013, this graph here, and one thing you'll notice is this is month by month in 2013. So the green is our giving in January. Sorry, I've just been talking too much today. Blue is giving, and red is our expenses for that month. And so you could see January, it goes every month through 2013. And so our total giving in 2013 was about $485,300. Our budget was like $465,000, so yeah, it was great. Our expenses in 2013 was $469,300, so about $16,000 surplus. So this was a great year fiscally. I think, at the end of last year, we brought Ryan on. We did not have the funds to bring Ryan on. And so I talked to a few key families and said, hey, can you give more to the mission of Grace? We want to bring Ryan on. And not only have we just been able to support Ryan and just bring on another staff person, but yeah, I mean, it's just been a really great year. And this is just a big thank you and just a big, man, I'm just so proud of our church for the sacrifice and the generosity that you've exhibited this past year and all the previous years. And that just gives me such confidence in the years to come of what God is going to be able to do through the finances that we give to further his kingdom. So this is 2013. I guess let me jump to 2014. So our proposal for 2014, our 2013 giving is $485,000. Our giving proposal for 2014 is $525,000. So it's about any math whizzes here? How many percent jump? 8% jump. Awesome. Oh, Scott, thank you. 8% jump for next year. Now, part of that jump is there's increase in rent every year when you lease a place, rent increases. We are going to be bringing Sarah on full time. Now, this also, one reality for next year's budget is this. I'll go back to that. Is that the 525 is our funds for supporting our current staff. So we would need to have additional funds in order to bring somebody on who we would want as the next pastor of discipleship and community. I have full confidence in God's faithfulness in us kind of pulling together and understanding the vision that God has. And so really, I think it's a step of faith, but I think God is just going to show himself faithful again and again to us. One thing that before we go to the 2014 budget, just as a benchmark, because if you've never worked with church budgets, it may be kind of like, well, what is this? But a usual benchmark for healthy churches, they say, is about 50 to 70% of your budget is going towards personnel. Okay? Usually you want to stay down towards the 50. About 50%. 25% of that is going towards ministry. And for us, ministry means, everything that happens here on Sunday, community groups, our local and global missions giving, our support that we have, everything that involves people in ministry, about 25%. And then the other 25%, you want to be going towards operations, so like rental facilities, utilities, all that kind of stuff. So here's our budget for next year. You can see our ministry budget is $136,000. Math whiz, what percentage is that? 20-something. 25? I don't know, somewhere around there. Operations, which is everything to do with heating this place, fixing leaks, getting new bulbs, equipment, $129,000. Personnel, so we have 3 full-time pastors and 2 part-time staff, a part-time children's director and a part-time administrative assistant. So personnel salary takes up $204,800, and then benefits for the staff is another $50,000. That's usually the part that as employees you don't think or see because the employer pays that. So basically, we have a very balanced and healthy budget in terms of proportions and categories. Again, it's an 8% increase And that's because God is just, we feel like this is pretty conservative. We feel like God is just going to continue to do great things in and through Grace Ann Arbor, and we're just excited for the 2014 ministry year. So, I guess this is time where we should field some questions, because we, as part of the congregation, if you are a member, we will ask you to vote on this budget for next year. So, yeah, Ted. Yep. Yeah, so we usually have certain things that we give at certain periods of time, or certain payments are made. So usually end of the year, we do a lot of our missions giving. We gave, we gave to the Shaws, we gave to Salvation Army, and so our expenses went up in proportion. We figured back in October, hey, our missions giving, our commitment to give away 10% wasn't keeping up with the revenue. And so we kind of had to, and usually with missionaries, it's like June and December where you make, payments during the year. Any other questions? No, don't scratch your nose, you may. Yes.
Did you say that, can you go?
Yep.
Sorry. So did you say that when Ryan is changing his role and then bringing on the new pastor?
Mm-hmm. Discipleship. Mm-hmm.
That's not included in the budget for this year?
That is not included in this year.
So, why? I guess is my question. I guess I'm just wondering about sort of looking towards, and as we sort of step out in faith and
Yeah.
get the staff that we really need.
Yeah.
What's
We could have added it. I think every year, whenever you're in a startup, whether it's a church or a business, every year we set a budget, and every year, because of our growth, our revenue and our expenses have always kind of busted through whatever we budgeted. This year was probably the closest to what we actually budgeted and where we landed at the end of the year. Certainly, I think we could have added another salary, full-time salary plus benefits. At the same time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the board felt like this was another big jump. We make a jump every year. Most churches are famous for making that jump and never reaching it. We've always been able to reach it, yet we don't want to, so we're saying, well, when that time comes, Grace Ann Arbor, we will do what we can. Things, whether it's like last year, I talked to families behind the scenes and just say, hey, we need you to increase giving. Ryan's salary will then start to come from Cultivate once he starts. But then during that time, we'll have, funds coming in that can support this new staff person. The only rub is we would like that staff person to come in sometime and have at least some overlap, so it's not like Ryan goes to start Cultivate, and now we don't have a pastor of discipleship, which we need, especially in the fall, to help people integrate into community groups. And so, again, I'm confident that this budget is very realistic, and my hope is that we will actually go beyond this budget. So, yeah. We will probably start the search process before I go. We will not, we don't know. The best I could tell you is, hey, that'd be great. Logistics when it comes to finances, when it comes to transitions, those are some issues. But again, that's something that, discernment of the staff and the board we'll be talking a lot about in the coming months ahead.
Will you still be in conversation about that?
Yes. So while I'm away, I will still be in contact with Russell, who is our head elder and president of the board, and with Stephen and Ryan. So, yep. Okay, yes? Yeah. Yeah, well, so, well, when we were smaller, when we used to have like the full thing, now, really it's, I mean, so if you're a member, what's available to you is a greater breakdown of this. When it, no. It's been crazy busy. It is. I chose it, right? It is self-imposed. But basically what we've had in past years in terms of proportions, basically when it comes to the increase, basically that's what it's been, is Sarah coming on full-time and increase in facility, rental, that really make up a big portion of this increase. But if you're a member, you can ask us to look at a more detailed thing. Before, what would happen, and this was like our first year when we didn't know how to do anything, we gave like a detailed thing to like everybody, whether you're a first-time visitor or not. And really, there's a sense of ownership that members have that we want to give them, that sense of, hey, transparency and looking through all that. But again, a congregation this size becomes a bit more challenging. What happens too is, well, I'll say this: even when we were like 100 people and there was like 30 line items. So what do we spend $2,000 on office items for? I mean, it happens. And so at this size, we can't sit here and break down every single line item. Just know that this is something that the board has approved and vetted. These are all officers that are elected by the congregation. And so in fact, I think most churches, in fact, if you go to a congregational meeting, you will receive a very broad general thing. And again, it's available to any member who wants to see something more detailed. Yep. I'll get to that after the vote. Yep. Yep. That's a good question. So the one thing that we have done is we actually use a church compensation handbook. So there is such a thing. Yeah. And so what we do is the board looks at the figures for the national average for a church our size and our budget. What does a pastor in these positions make? And I will tell you that just about all of our staff, well, and this is what I actually tell our staff this. Hey, you're getting a raise and you are getting the national average of what your position makes. However, make no bones about it. That is not because we think you are average. The only limit is our context and our giving. And if we could, we would compensate you more so because we believe we hire the best pastors that we can find, and we believe you are way above average. But at least to give due honor and to give some sort of objectivity, we do use an outside resource, a church compensation handbook, for each of those staff positions that we have. Yep. Not really. So that's not factored in there. And so I will say this, your pastors, they could all be making more doing something else. At the same time, that came out wrong. That's not supposed to make you feel guilty. Really, all of us love, and with great joy, love serving this congregation. And every week, it is my privilege and our privilege to serve you. And so, yes, we want to make sure that all of our pastors, can make a living wage in Ann Arbor with families and whatnot. And we do our best. And I'll tell you, it's not an easy process for me and the board, because of our revenue and things. But at the same time, I think each one of our staff just knows just how supported they are by all of you, how much they're loved by all of you. And I think that's the thing. When you say that and tell them that, that is just so invaluable. And so, yeah, we wish we could. Yeah. That's.
So, and this question is coming from a place of, I want to make sure that our staff are being compensated enough, right?
Uh-huh.
Not like, what's happening here? But was there a cost of living raise this year for
Yeah, yep, yeah. Yep. Okay, I think like one or two more questions, yeah. Yeah. Oh, no. So I received a grant from a seminary, and that is not included in this. That is actually given to the church in an account that they have, and that is basically to provide for travels and lodging while we are away. But that has no reflection here. That is not part of our operational budget. No, no. No, it doesn't. No. This includes my salary. And then, all four or six, how many staff do we have? Five staff members. Okay, I know we cannot do justice. I know we cannot. We can't do justice to all of this. And so again, what we're going, I'm actually going to. Should I do it, Russell? Do you want to do the call to vote? Okay. So part of our Constitution, we have to call a vote of members for the 2014 budget to be approved. So to be a member means that you're not just coming here. You've actually taken the membership class. You've had a conversation with an elder, shared your testimony with them, and you became a member. If you are a member, what we're going to do is I'm going to have you raise your hands, and then basically you can vote in favor of the budget, you can vote against the budget, or you could raise your hand to vote in abstention, that you will not vote one way or the other. So if you are a member of Grace Ann Arbor, would you raise your hand, and could you take count? Because we need to count that. Keep your hands up. Sush, can you start counting on that side? Okay. How many is that? 64. Okay. Okay. I guess we will call the 2014 budget to a vote. If you, again, you know what? Can I have the board members come up to the front? Craig, Elder, Russell, an elder, Morgan, Andrea, and Rich are deacons. These are the men and women who comprise our current board. If you have any questions after we finish this, we will be up here. We will do everything we can to answer whatever we can. So I will call a vote for 2014. Can you maybe parse out who votes or who counts this there? So if you are a member and you are in favor of approving the 2014 budget, please raise your hand. Okay, hands down. If you are a member of Grace Ann Arbor and you want to vote against the 2014 budget, raise your hand. Okay. Got it? Okay, if you are a member and you want to vote in abstention to the 2014, raise your hand. Okay. All right. Okay. The 2014 budget is approved. If you, yep. If you are a member, you can contact the office if you want more details about this budget. You could stand there. Last thing that I want to do, just next steps, okay, and then we'll finish off here. 3 things that we're going to ask you as regular attenders, members, stakeholders of Grace Ann Arbor. One is pray for the staff and leadership of this church. Pray for me and Stephen and Sarah and Karen and Ryan and our families and the leaders here for wisdom and discernment. We covet your prayers. It's always, I love it when my dad tells me, Sung, me and your mom are praying for you every morning. And when a church member says, Sung, I'm praying for you and the staff, that is a huge encouragement. So pray for the staff. Secondly, something really practical, and again, this is something that we have been just doing such a great job at, especially in light of the vision and mission that we have, but give to the church. If you're not, consider giving your tithes, 10% of your income, as your act of worship to God. This is how we are a nonprofit that runs totally on the donations of our people, and so give to the church. You may be giving to other places, and that's great. But if this is your home church, if this is where you're finding community, if this is where you're finding friends, if this is where you're being fed spiritually, make that a consideration to give to Grace Ann Arbor. And finally, just get involved. That means joining a community group if you're not in one. We talked about that. We have like 70% of people in community groups. Serve in some kind of ministry if you're not involved. Don't be the 80% of the trivial many who just, don't want to serve or give. Be part of that, vital few, that 20%, and get involved. And somebody told me, you got to say this, but I agree. Come to church on Sundays. Especially, I'll tell you what, the summer times, it's a temptation to be like, it's summertime. Sung's not there. He's not even going to know I wasn't there all summer. No. Come to church, support the leaders, pray for us, serve and give. And you know what? That is what makes it a joy every single day, no matter what challenges we go through, every single day to be a joy to come and to serve this congregation. So, closing words, I just want to say thank you for being such a great congregation, a great people, and in the best sense of the term, I am so proud of all of you. I am so proud of you for coming, for giving, for serving, and I could not be a more joyful just pastor in serving you. So it's my privilege to serve you, and I know the rest of the staff feels the same way. So let me close in prayer. And then afterwards, you can be dismissed, grab some more pizza on your way out, talk to any of us if you have questions. Stephen is in the back, Ryan's up here. Any questions you want, we want to be available. Okay, so let me close in prayer, and then you're dismissed. Father, we just want to give you thanks and glory for this day, that this Lord's Day where we gather to worship you. And Lord, even though this is perhaps more logistical and more factual, Lord, it's also an important part of how you have your kingdom advance in this world. And so, Lord, we pray that we would be good stewards of all the resources, the finances, the people, this facility, the leaders, and every person who serves. Let us just be great stewards of what you've given us. And as we are faithful, Lord, just bless us with more, not for our own sake, but that we can make a difference. We could bring Christ to this city and to our world. And so, Lord, as we go, we're just so glad that we could be part of something larger than ourselves. We could be part of something that's just going to change the face of this city and this world, and it's only by your Spirit. So, God, we give you thanks. To you be all the glory. It's in your name we pray. Amen.